Let me tell you about the biggest problem in my life. So this is my architecture office, and I can honestly say it's my favorite building in town, and it's not just because it's where my office is. It's a lot of people's favorite building. There's not a whole lot of this style around town. This was built in 1940 by the Crescent Street Floral Company. It now sits in the Heritage Hill Historic District. So one of the things that's so unique about this building is it's completely clad in something called ceramic veneer architectural terracotta. Here, I'll show you an example. These are the quote-unquote bricks that make up the facade of this building. There's a couple of different colors on the building. This happens to be one of the base tiles that I have here. And you can see it has a glazed surface. On the back, it's sort of fluted with these dovetail joints to make it stick to the concrete block that backs it up. It has a couple of cores in the middle that make it a little bit lighter and help in the firing process. This is the piece of the rest of the building is this other sort of green mottled color. It's got this green backing and sort of a off-white mottled glass over the top of it. And the problem is that they don't really make this anymore. This was made by Natco, which was one of the architectural terracotta companies that was in operation, from the 1800s through the 50s or so. Well, here, let's go take a look. And this brings us to the biggest problem in my life, which is that the ceramic veneer facade has had some water intrusion over the years, and it's starting to have some problems. You can see up here where the faces of some of these tiles has cracked off, and you can see the interior of the clay body behind it. This is happening because water's gotten into the facade before, it's frozen and gone through expansion and contraction of the three freeze-thaw cycles. See, there's been a lot of damage along the wing wall next to this balcony, upper level balcony here. When I was doing research trying to figure out who the architect of this building might be, I found a very similar building up in Traverse City, Michigan. Now, it's a one-story building, it's a gas station, not a flower shop. But other than that, the design is remarkably similar. It has the same green terracotta tile walls with the black tile bases. One difference being in that building, which is in great shape, the top of the wall is capped with a glazed ceramic wall cap tile, which would have been a nice waterproof way of keeping the water from getting down into the top of the wall. At this building, you can see where the top course of masonry is a decorative concrete block. And there's a head joint there, one of the vertical joints, that's opened up. Now, this building didn't always have its metal cap flashing on top of the wall, which is that dark black band you see at the very top of the wall. When it was originally built, those concrete blocks were the wall cap. Concrete blocks aren't particularly good at stopping water, particularly if they get one of these open joints in them. And I suspect that's the reason this building hasn't fared very well. You can notice over here in this upper corner, there's a lot of damage at the blocks right near the top. The other place the damage tends to happen is above the windows. Like this window over here. And that's a common place for water to get stuck if it does get in. So I'm not the first person to deal with this problem. Over here by the apartment entry, you can see there are some patched blocks here, and a few other places along the building. Like up at the top of this corner, there's also some near the top of the wall in both a solid black and a sort of a solid mint green. Now these blocks don't come with the two-tone mottled texture that they get from mixing two different glazes together and applying them with a mottled process. The other issue with these blocks is that the blocks nowadays are made to the size of a concrete block, which is 7 5/8 by 15 5/8, which allows for a 3/8 mortar joint. These blocks, the original ones, were 8 by 16 inches actual dimension with only a 1/4 inch or so mortar joint. So if you put a small brick into the 8 by 16 module we have, you end up with an extra thick mortar joint. And if you put two of the small bricks next to each other, then the mortar joints get even doubly thick. And that's really never going to look right on a building that's gridded out with these thin pencil line grids. So in order to truly restore this building and get it looking right, I'm going to have to make my own terracotta blocks. Now that problem comes down to two main areas. One is like making the actual shape of the blocks itself, and then taking those blocks and glazing them with the right color glazes mixed in the right way to get the right texture, the right sheen, and the right modeling of those colors together. It's not going to be an easy task, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pull it off. So the first problem is, of course, getting the shapes made. I can tell from these existing blocks, on the back there are these grooves, and on these grooves there's a little bit of tear out that implies a certain direction that these were extruded in as they came off an extruder machine. So these were squirted out like a big Play-Doh factory noodle and cut every 16 inches. So there's that main shape, and then there's four other shapes for various bullnose sills and window jambs and different ways that it turns the corner with a 4x4 or a 4x12. Now, potters make extrusions all the time for doing things like hollow tubes for kiln furniture or handles for mugs. But all the extruding machines that are out there are generally for things like mug handles. Something this size is a whole different ballgame. For that, I'm going to need at least something like a pug mill. Now, the machine that these were made on was probably a giant factory-sized machine. So hopefully this rather large, rather expensive pug mill that's on its way here from California as we speak is going to handle the problem of how to make the actual shapes. The next problem is how to glaze them in order to match what's going on the facade. You can see from this chunk of tile that fell off the building that it's a two-tone green underglaze with more of an off-white color modeled on top of it. I've hired a potter consultant in order to help me figure this out, see if I can at least get in the ballpark. And she's managed to come up with a few samples that are fairly close in color, figured out the right oxides in order to get this greenish tone. But the problem with getting the model right is very difficult. So this tile here has some modeling to it. This was done with a brush, and yet it's certainly not the right texture. Similarly, this one has a bit of the same color, although a little too much black in it. And in both of these, the sheen is rather flat. Whereas in this sample, you can sort of see in the reflection that it's more of a mottled, dimply surface. And that's what's going on with these tiles. Maybe you can see that in this original one here too, if I can get the reflection right. That it's not a perfectly smooth, glassy surface. So the trick is going to be figuring out exactly how this is done. Now, in looking up in the Building Technology Heritage Library, I found that these blocks, if I look on the side of the blocks here, there's an imprint. Not on that one. I don't know if you can even see it here. But on the side of this block, there's a little bit of lettering. And I can just barely figure out that that says Natco W Series load bearing. And so that tells me that this terracotta was made by Natco, which was a big producer of this sort of stuff back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, probably even in the 50s. It's not really used much nowadays, as you can obviously tell, otherwise I just run to Home Depot and get some to patch the building with. And so there you had it. That's the biggest problem in my life. Now I just need to set up a pug mill extruder machine, figure out 5 or so extrusion dies in order to recreate the right shapes, cut to the right lengths, with the right amount of shrinkage made out of the right kind of clay, glaze those with 2 different types of fritted glaze applied in the right way in order to get the right two-tone stippled texture, and fire about 600 of these things in a kiln before I can start putting them up on the building. All this to keep the building that I'm in from crumbling around me. Wish me luck.